The conference room held its breath. 4 to 7 floors above Seoul's glittering skyline, Han Juno-koye sat at the head of the obsidian table, his mistress draped across the chair beside him like a trophy. His hand rested on hers, deliberate, possessive, public. The Okonkwo Holdings executives watched in uncomfortable silence. He didn't need to speak. His presence commanded. The Korean-Nigerian tattoo climbing his neck pulsed with quiet authority. Then the doors opened. And his estranged wife walked in. Not broken. Not begging. But wearing the CEO pin of the company he desperately needed. Nia Adeyemi didn't look at him. She didn't have to. His hand went still. His blood went cold. And Han Juno-koye realized, 3 years too late, that he had made the most devastating mistake of his life. Before we continue this story of power, betrayal, and obsession, remember, sometimes the people we discard become the ones who hold our fate. If this story moves you, please like, share, and subscribe. The click of her heels echoed like gunshots. 63 steps from the elevator to the conference room. Nia had counted them during the building walkthrough 3 days ago. She'd memoized the distance, the acoustics, the way sound traveled through the corridor. Preparation was armor. And today, she needed every piece. The glass doors parted automatically. Climate-controlled air kissed her skin, 17 degrees Celsius, calibrated for the comfort of men in expensive suits. She didn't shiver. 3 years ago, she might have. The room held 14 people. 12 executives from Juno-koye Consortium. One woman she didn't recognize, younger, beautiful, wearing a dress that cost more than most people's monthly salary. And him. Han Juno-koye. Her husband. Her ghost. Her unfinished war. He looked exactly the same. Sharp jawline cut from granite. Eyes like black ice, cold, penetrating, revealing nothing. The same stillness that had once made her feel safe now radiated danger. The tribal fusion tattoo climbed from beneath his collar, disappearing into his hairline. Korean characters intertwined with Nigerian Nsibidi symbols. She knew every line of that tattoo. Had traced it with her fingers in the dark. Had watched it flex as he signed their separation papers without looking at her. Gentlemen. Nia's voice filled the room, soft, controlled, devastating. I apologize for the delay. Traffic from the airport was educational. She didn't sit. Not yet. Power meant choosing when to lower yourself. The woman beside June shifted. Her manicured fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on his arm. Territorial. Anxious. Ah, Nia thought. So this is the replacement. She felt nothing. Or told herself she felt nothing. Mrs. Adeyemi. Ms. Nia corrected, her gaze finally landing on the speaker, a nervous executive with sweat beading at his temples. I haven't been Mrs. anything in 3 years. The silence that followed was exquisite. She walked to the head of the table. Slowly. Deliberately. Each step a statement. June's expression hadn't changed, but she caught the micromovement, the slight tension in his jaw, the way his breathing shifted. He was calculating, recalibrating, trying to understand how the woman he'd discarded had materialized as the CEO of the company that held his consortium's survival in her hands. She stopped directly across from him. 14 feet of polished table between them. An ocean of history. Shall we begin? The wedding had been a merger disguised as a fairy tale. Nia remembered the weight of the dress, 15 pounds of imported silk and her mother's tears sewn into the hem. 200 guests. 4 corporate boards represented. The Union of Adeyemi Enterprises and the Juno-koye Consortium, sealed with rings and legal documents. She was 25. He was 35. She'd loved him anyway. The night before the wedding, her father had called her into his study. You understand what this means, Chukwudi Adeyemi had said. Not a question. You understand the sacrifice. I understand I'm marrying a man who terrifies everyone in this room except me. Her father had smiled, sad, proud, worried. That's exactly what concerns me. June had been different in private. Not soft, never soft, but present. He'd learned her coffee order within a week. Memoized her allergies. Noticed when she was tired before she admitted it. He spoke to her in silences. And she'd learned to read every pause. But marriages built on mergers rarely survive the corporate storms. The first year was negotiation. The second was war. By the third, Nia had discovered that love wasn't enough armor against boardroom betrayals. She'd found the documents on a Tuesday. Unremarkable day. Unremarkable moment. Remarkable devastation. Her father's signature. Forged. The Adeyemi Enterprises shares, stolen. And June's name, inked across every transfer. She'd confronted him that night. Did you marry me for my family's company? He'd looked at her the way he looked at everything, cold, assessing, impenetrable. I married you because your father offered you as collateral for a debt he couldn't pay. The words had landed like physical blows. He told me you chose this, she whispered. He told me you knew. They stared at each other across their bedroom, strangers who'd shared a bed for 3 years. Then we were both deceived, June said finally. Does it matter? Nia's voice cracked. The result is the same. You own my family's legacy. You own everything I was supposed to protect. I own what I acquired. Legally. Strategically. I won't apologize for survival. She'd left that night. No suitcase. No forwarding address. Just the clothes on her back and the wreckage of every dream she'd built on the foundation of his arms. He didn't follow. She didn't expect him to. But what June never knew, what no one knew, was why she'd truly disappeared. Present day. The conference room hummed with tension thick enough to taste. Nia settled into the CEO chair at her end of the table, the position of power, deliberately positioned to face the consortium's leadership. Her assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Zara, distributed folders with mechanical precision. Okonkwo Holdings quarterly projections, Nia began, flipping open her own copy. Page 7. You'll see the infrastructure analysis your consortium requested. Papers rustled. No one looked at the documents. Everyone was watching the silent WA. June hadn't spoken since her arrival. His mistress, Seminit, according to the guest list, kept glancing between them with growing unease. The territorial confidence she'd worn like armor was crumbling. Good, Nia thought. Then immediately chastised herself for the pettiness. This wasn't about jealousy. This was about power. She couldn't afford to confuse the two. The projections are impressive. His voice. Low, controlled, familiar as her own heartbeat. Nia looked up from her papers. Held his gaze. Felt nothing. Felt everything. Thank you, she said. We've worked extensively to ensure the accuracy of our modeling. Accuracy wasn't my concern. Ambition was. A challenge. The room tensed. Ambition requires resources, Nia replied smoothly. Resources you're here to secure. Unless the Juno Koye Consortium has found alternative funding for your Southeast Asian expansion. Silence. She'd done her homework. The consortium was hemorrhaging capital. 3 failed ventures in 18 months. Investor confidence shattered. They needed Okonkwo Holdings infrastructure investment like oxygen. And now Nia controlled the air supply. We're open to negotiation, June said finally. I'm not. The words landed like stones in still water. Ms. Adeyemi. The terms are outlined on page 12. Nia's voice remained perfectly pleasant. Full acquisition of your Southeast Asian assets. Restructuring of your board leadership. And a 70-30 profit split in our favor for the first 5 years. Seminit gasped. Someone coughed nervously. June's expression didn't change, but Nia caught it, the flicker of something dangerous behind his eyes. Recognition. Respect. Fury. Those terms are unacceptable. Those terms are what's available. Nia closed her folder. Take them or find another lifeboat. I understand the Kim Group is also struggling. Perhaps they'll be more accommodating. She stood. My assistant will schedule a follow-up meeting once you've reviewed the documents. I trust you'll find the analysis thorough. Don't look at him. Don't look at him. Don't. She looked. And found him already watching her with an intensity that made her bones ache. Nia. Her name in his mouth was a weapon she'd forgotten he carried. Mr. Juno Koye. A pleasure, as always. She walked out without looking back. But she felt his gaze like fire against her spine the entire way. Seminit waited until the door closed to break. Who was that? She knew the answer. Everyone in the room knew. But asking gave her permission to react, to process, to understand why the man she'd spent 18 months trying to claim had looked at another woman like she was the sun itself. June didn't answer. He was still staring at the door. June. He turned. Slowly. Like waking from a dream. What? Who? Was that? The executives shifted uncomfortably. This was not a conversation for boardrooms. Not a display of emotion their enigmatic leader would normally permit. But something had shifted in the air since Nia's departure. Something irreversible. My wife, June said. Present tense. Siminit's blood froze. I thought you said. I said she left. I didn't say she stopped existing. He stood. Collected his papers. His movements were controlled, but Siminit had spent 18 months learning his silences. This wasn't control. This was containment. Whatever he was feeling, he was barely holding it together. The meeting is adjourned, he told the executives. Review the proposal. We'll reconvene Monday. Sir, those terms. I'm aware of the terms. June walked toward the door. Siminit grabbed his arm. You're going after her. He looked down at her hand. Then up at her face. Let go. Not angry. Worse. Indifferent. She released him like his skin had burned her. 18 months, she whispered. 18 months, and you never looked at me the way you looked at her just now. Not once. June paused at the door. No, he agreed quietly. I didn't. He left. And Siminit stood in the wreckage of every assumption she'd built her future on. Nia made it to the elevator before her hands started shaking. Hold it together. Hold it together. Hold. The doors opened. June was inside. How? Stairwell. Had to be. 4 to 7 floors in what, 3 minutes? Her heart hammered against her ribs as she calculated escape routes. Back away. Take the next elevator. Don't. Get in. His voice was quiet. Not commanding, requesting. That was somehow worse. She stepped inside. The doors closed. 17 seconds to the lobby. She could survive 17 seconds. When did you acquire Afro-Korean holdings? Straight to business. Of course. He wouldn't ask how she'd been. Wouldn't apologize. Wouldn't acknowledge the 3 years of silence, the divorce papers she'd signed in an empty apartment, the life she'd rebuilt from ashes. 8 months ago, she answered. Hostile takeover. The previous CEO underestimated me. People do that. She glanced at him. He was staring straight ahead, jaw tight, tattoo visible above his collar. The insipidity symbol for protection curved behind his ear. She'd watched him get it on their first anniversary. For you, he'd said then. So you know I'll always shield you. Lies. Beautiful, devastating lies. What do you want, June? The terms are unacceptable. Then reject them. I'm not talking about the terms. The elevator slowed. Nia's breath caught. Then what are you talking about? He turned. Fully. His body blocking the doors, his presence consuming the small space until she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't remember why she'd ever thought she was over him. You, he said. I'm talking about you. There is no me to talk about. Nia's voice was steady. Remarkable, given that her entire nervous system was screaming. We're divorced. We're strangers who happen to have incompatible business interests. That's all. Is it? He stepped closer. She stepped back. Her shoulders hit the elevator wall. You disappeared. His voice was low, dangerous, controlled. 3 years ago. No warning. No explanation. I woke up and you were gone. You knew why. I knew what you said. I never believed it. She laughed, harsh, broken. You signed the papers. You didn't contest the divorce. You moved on with, what's her name? The woman in the conference room? You moved on while I was building something from nothing. Don't pretend you were waiting. I wasn't waiting. Then what were you doing? Watching. The word hung between them. Nia's blood went cold. What does that mean? It means I never lost track of you. His hand rose, slowly, deliberately, and touched the wall beside her head. Not trapping her. Giving her space to run. She didn't run. It means I know about the apartment in Lagos, the office in London, the business school in Singapore. I know about the shell companies and the careful acquisitions and the 18-hour days. I know about everything you built. You were surveilling me. I was protecting you. From what? From the same people who made you disappear in the first place. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. Neither of them moved. I don't know what you're talking about, Nia whispered. Yes, you do. June. You didn't leave because of the documents. You didn't leave because of what you found in my office. You left because someone threatened you. Someone powerful enough to make you run instead of fight. His eyes bored into hers. I've spent 3 years trying to find out who. The doors began to close. He pressed the hold button. Tell me I'm wrong. She couldn't. Because he wasn't. The night Nia left, she hadn't gone far. A hotel. 3 blocks from their penthouse. Close enough to feel like purgatory, far enough to be invisible. She'd sat on the bed, staring at the burner phone in her hand, watching the minutes tick toward midnight. At 11:47, it rang. You received our message. The voice was digitally altered. Gender indeterminate. Terrifying in its calmness. You forged my father's signature. Framed my husband for corporate theft. What message am I supposed to receive? That we can reach anyone. Anywhere. Anytime. Your father's heart condition makes him vulnerable. Your husband's syndicate connections make him dangerous. But you're the variable we control. What do you want? Disappear. Tonight. Leave Seoul, leave your marriage, leave everything. Build something new. Something we can use. And if I refuse? Then your father dies tomorrow. A tragic medical complication. Undetectable. Unstoppable. Nia's hand trembled. Who are you? We're the people who've been pulling strings for longer than you've been alive. Your father borrowed from us decades ago. Your husband's family has been entangled with us for generations. We don't want to destroy anyone. Destruction is wasteful. We want to invest. In what? In you. You have potential. Strategic intelligence. Emotional control. The ability to build empires. We're offering you the chance to do exactly that. With our resources. Our connections. Our protection. You're asking me to become your puppet. We're asking you to become our partner. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Where you're standing, your father has approximately 18 hours to live. Your husband is about to discover evidence that you orchestrated the document forgery. Evidence will plant if you don't cooperate. You'll lose everything either way. We're offering you a chance to rebuild. She closed her eyes. Thought of her father's weak heart. Her husband's cold eyes. The life she'd built and the life she could build. Thought of survival. What do I have to do? The elevator doors remained open. Nia stared at June's face, searching for the trap, the manipulation, the angle. He was a man who never showed his cards. A man who'd built an empire on strategic deception. Why would he reveal this now? Why? She whispered. Why were you watching? Because I don't believe you betrayed me. The evidence was fabricated. I knew within 6 months of your departure. But by then, you'd vanished so completely that even my resources couldn't reach you. She laughed, bitter, exhausted. Your resources reach me just fine. You said you knew everything. Knowing and reaching are different. His hand was still beside her head, not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. I could see you. I couldn't get to you. Not without exposing you to whatever was hunting you. So what changed? You came back. I came back as a CEO. I came back with power. You came back within my reach. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened her. It didn't. It infuriated her. I'm not something to be reached. She pushed past him, out of the elevator, into the marble lobby. I'm not a prize or a conquest or a chess piece. I spent 3 years becoming someone who doesn't need anyone's protection. Especially not yours. I know. Then stop looking at me like you own me. I never owned you. He followed her, his long stride easily matching her pace. I was owned by you. There's a difference. She stopped. Turned. The lobby was empty, late evening, most employees gone. Just them, surrounded by glass and steel and the ghosts of everything they'd been. You want to know why I left? Fine. Someone threatened my father's life. They threatened to frame me for the corporate theft you were accused of. They said they'd destroy both of us unless I disappeared and became useful to them. June's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes shifted. Calculated. Dangerous. Who? I don't know. Not entirely. I spent 3 years trying to find out while I built exactly what they asked me to build. Afro-Korean Holdings wasn't just a company, it was a trap. A honeypot to draw them out. And did it work? Nia smiled, cold, triumphant, exhausted. Why do you think I'm back in Seoul? Why do you think I walked into that boardroom knowing you'd be there? This isn't coincidence, June. This is strategy. They want me to take over your consortium. They want me to absorb everything you've built. And once I do, they'll have control over both empires. Exactly. His jaw tightened. So you're working for them? I'm hunting them. There's a difference. They moved to a private room in a hotel 4 blocks away. Neutral territory. Nia chose it deliberately, somewhere public enough to prevent escalation, private enough for truth. She ordered tea. He ordered nothing. They sat across from each other like generals negotiating surrender. Tell me everything, June said. I've told you everything I know. The voice on the phone. The demands. The timeline. Tell me again. She did. Every detail she could remember. The digital distortion, the precise threats, the careful instructions she'd followed for 3 years. The shell companies they'd helped her establish. The strategic investments they'd guided. The power they'd helped her accumulate. They wanted me to become exactly what I've become, she finished. Powerful. Connected. Positioned to absorb your consortium without raising suspicion. And you went along with it. My father is still alive. So are you. I went along with whatever kept that true. Something flickered across June's face. If she didn't know better, she'd call it pain. You should have told me. You would have fought them. Of course I would have. And you would have lost. Her voice rose, cracking for the first time. I knew what you were capable of. I knew about the syndicate connections and the underground resources and the people who owed you favors. I knew all of it, and I still believed these people were beyond your reach. You would have tried anyway, and they would have destroyed you. So you destroyed us instead. I preserved us. Both of us. Separately. That's not preservation. That's cowardice. The word landed like a slap. Nia stood. Her chair scraped against the floor with a harsh screech. Cowardice? I spent 3 years building an empire from nothing. I spent 3 years playing a role, following orders, pretending to be their perfect weapon while I gathered information. Every move, every acquisition, every meeting, all of it was designed to lead back to them. I'm this close to finding out who they are, and you want to call that cowardice? I want to call it unnecessary. He stood too. Moved around the table. Closer. You didn't need to do any of this alone. We could have fought together. And risk both of us dying? Both empires collapsing? Everything our families built disappearing into their hands? Yes. She stared at him. You don't mean that. I mean every word. His hand rose. Touched her jaw. Gentle. Devastating. I would have bound everything, every company, every connection, every piece of power I've ever accumulated, if it meant keeping you. June. You left me. 3 words. Simple. Shattering. You left, and I had no idea why, and I spent 6 months thinking you'd betrayed me before I realized the truth. I spent 3 years watching you build something extraordinary while I couldn't touch you, couldn't protect you, couldn't be with you. Don't talk to me about sacrifice. I know exactly what it costs. Her vision blurred. Don't cry. Don't you dare cry. I couldn't risk you, she whispered. You understand? It wasn't about courage or cowardice or strategy. It was about the fact that losing you would have ended me, and at least this way, at least with distance, I could survive. I could function. I could fight. And now? Now I don't know. The tears fell despite her efforts. Now you're standing in front of me saying things I dreamed about for 3 years, and I don't know if it's real or if it's another move in a game I can't see. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Caught a tear. It's real. Prove it. The next 72 hours were a masterclass in strategic collaboration. They worked together for the first time since their marriage, not as spouses, but as partners. Business partners, specifically. The emotional weight of their history lurked beneath every conversation, but they both kept it contained. For now. The acquisition pattern. Nia spread documents across the hotel suite's desk. Every company they pushed me to buy connects to the same offshore holding structures. Shell corporations in Cyprus, the Caymans, Singapore. Layers and layers of obfuscation, but they all trace back to one investment firm. Which one? Eclipse Capital. June's expression flickered. You know them, Nia said. Not a question. We've done business. Minor deals. They positioned themselves as passive investors, minority stakes in consortium subsidiaries. I never looked too closely. Because they didn't want you to. Because they were designed not to be looked at. He pulled up records on his tablet. Financial statements, board compositions, regulatory filings. The obsessive documentation of a man who trusted nothing. Eclipse Capital's board is publicly anonymous. Investor protection laws in their jurisdictions shield identity disclosure. But. I know someone who knows someone who doesn't care about laws. Nia raised an eyebrow. Syndicate contacts. You knew who you married. I knew who I thought I married. 3 years of surveillance, and you never once reached out. That suggests a level of self-control, or detachment, that the June I knew didn't possess. He set down the tablet. Met her eyes. The June you knew burned down a warehouse district when you left. The statement hung in the air. What? 3 days after you disappeared. I thought someone had taken you. I thought, he stopped. Steadied himself. I was not rational. When I finally accepted that you'd left voluntarily, I had to rebuild my self-control from scratch. It took years. She thought of the news reports she'd followed from Lagos. The mysterious fire in Seoul's industrial district. The property damage. The investigation that went nowhere. He did that for her. Or because of her. The distinction mattered. I didn't know, she said softly. You weren't supposed to. No one was. The point is, I am capable of losing control. I simply choose not to. For you, I always chose not to. Because I knew you needed me to be steady. And now. Now I'm trying very hard not to burn down whatever organization took you from me. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Kwame Mensah, CEO of Meridian Technologies and longtime rival of both Juno Koye Consortium and Okonkwo Holdings. He requested a meeting with Nia directly. No intermediaries, no public announcement. She agreed. June was not pleased. Mensah has been circling your company for months. June's voice was controlled, but his jaw was tight. His proposed 3 merger offers that you declined. Why would he want a private meeting now? Maybe because I'm back in Seoul. Maybe because he sees an opportunity. Or maybe because he's connected to the people who've been pulling your strings. Nia paused. She hadn't considered that. Eclipse Capital has minority stakes in Meridian Technologies, June continued. Small percentages, nothing controlling. But the connection exists. You think Mensah is their, what? Recruit? Competitor? I think Mensah is someone we should approach carefully. We. The word slipped out before she could stop it. June's expression shifted, something almost vulnerable beneath the control. Is that not what we're doing? Working together. Working together doesn't mean, she stopped. It doesn't mean together. I know. Do you? He stepped closer. They were in her hotel suite now, documents scattered across every surface, coffee cups marking the passage of time. Intimate, despite the professional context. Domestic, despite everything. I know that you don't trust me. I know that 3 years of silence can't be erased with 3 days of collaboration. I know that whatever we're building here might collapse the moment this is over. His voice was low, steady. But I also know that I'm not letting you walk into a meeting with Kwame Mensah alone. Why? Because you're jealous. Because Mensah has a reputation. So do you. My reputation doesn't involve 3 women who disappeared after rejecting his advances. The temperature in the room dropped. What? It was never proven. He's too careful. But I've had my suspicions for years, and I'm not risking you to confirm them. Nia sat down. Processed. 3 women. Disappeared. Unproven. And she'd been about to meet him alone. I didn't know. You couldn't have. He's meticulous about his public image. Philanthropist. Arts patron. The kind of powerful man who makes people forget what powerful men are capable of. Like you. The question was a test. He met it directly. No. I've never hurt anyone who didn't choose to engage with me. The syndicate operations, yes, I've done things that would horrify you. But never against the unwilling. Never against women. That line doesn't move. She believed him. She wasn't sure why, but she did. So what do we do about Mensah? We take the meeting. Together. And we find out exactly what he knows about the people who've been controlling your life. Kwame Mensah was everything his reputation promised. Tall. Distinguished. Ghanaian British aristocracy dripping from every tailored thread. He smiled at Nia like she was the most fascinating woman he'd ever encountered. He didn't smile at June at all. Mr. Juno Koye. Mensah's voice was silk wrapped around steel. I wasn't aware you'd be joining us. Plans change. Apparently. Though I must say, I'm curious about the nature of your collaboration. Given your history. Nia stepped in smoothly. Mr. Mensah, you requested this meeting. I assume you had something specific in mind. Direct. I appreciate that. He gestured to the private dining room they occupied, an exclusive restaurant in Gangnam, the kind of place where discretion was built into the walls. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. They Saturday. Wine was poured. Appetizers arrived. The theater of civilized negotiation. But beneath the surface, everyone was calculating. I've been watching your ascent, Ms. Adeyemi. Mensah swirled his wine. Impressive. From nothing to the head of Okonkwo Holdings in 8 months. That takes remarkable sponsorship. I prefer the term strategic investment. Of course. But we both know that strategic investments come with strings attached. June's hand tightened on his glass. Nia felt his tension without looking at him. What exactly are you suggesting, Mr. Mensah? I'm suggesting that we might have mutual interests. You've built something extraordinary, but you built it with borrowed power. I have my own power. Self-made, self-sustained. Perhaps we could find a way to complement each other. His fishing, Nia realized. He doesn't know who's been backing me. He wants to find out. Which meant he wasn't directly connected to Eclipse Capital. Or he was, and this was a performance. That's a generous offer. She kept her voice neutral. But I'm afraid I'm not in the market for new partnerships at the moment. Even if I could help you identify the people who've been pulling your strings. The table went silent. I don't know what you mean. Of course you do. Mensah leaned forward, his smile sharpening. You're too smart not to. You've been investigating Eclipse Capital for years. So have I. Different angles, same target. Perhaps we could share information. Why would you investigate them? Because they approached me first. 20 years ago, before you were even in business school. They offered me the same deal they offered you, power in exchange for obedience. I refused. And they let you. They tried to destroy me. Failed. I've been studying them ever since. June spoke for the first time since sitting. You expect us to believe you've been fighting them alone for 2 decades. I don't expect you to believe anything, Mr. Juno Koye. I expect you to verify. Everything I'm telling you is documented. Encrypted, naturally, but accessible to the right people. And you want to share this documentation, why? Because they've grown too powerful for one person to fight. Because your wife, he nodded at Nia, has gotten closer to their core than anyone else alive. And because they've recently made moves that suggest they are preparing for something significant. Something that will affect all of us. What kind of moves? Mensah pulled out a tablet. Slid it across the table. On the screen, photographs. Board meetings. Financial transfers. And a face Nia recognized. That's my father's business partner. From before he retired. Yes. And before that, he was my father's business partner. And before that, he was one of the founding members of Eclipse Capital's shadow board. Nia's world tilted. You're saying? I'm saying this organization has been embedded in our families for generations. They don't just recruit individuals, Ms. Adeyemi. They cultivate bloodlines. They've been planning for people like us since before we were born. The drive back to the hotel was silent. Nia stared out the window, watching Seoul's neon landscape blur past. Her mind raced through implications, connections, the terrifying scope of what Mensah had revealed. Generational manipulation. Her family. June's family. Mensah's family. All pieces on a board they'd never known existed. You're quiet. June's voice cut through the silence. I'm processing. What's the conclusion so far? She turned to face him. In the dim light of the car, his features were shadowed, severe. The tattoo on his neck seemed to absorb the darkness. The conclusion is that everything I thought I knew was wrong. My father's debt, the one that led to our marriage, wasn't an accident. It was engineered. We were engineered. The marriage itself. The marriage. The separation. My reconstruction into their asset. All of it. We were being positioned. For what? I don't know yet. But Mensah said they are preparing for something significant. Something that requires both of our empires consolidated under controllable leadership. Under you. Under whoever they think they own. June's jaw tightened. They don't own you. They think they do. That's dangerous enough. The car pulled into the hotel's private entrance. They walked to the elevator in silence. Rode up in silence. Entered her suite in silence. Then June spoke. There's something I never told you. Nia paused in removing her coat. About what? About why I agreed to the marriage. He moved to the window. Looked out at the city. Your father approached my family with the debt arrangement when I was 32. I was resistant. Marriage for business felt archaic. Unnecessary. My parents were traditional, but I was not. What changed? He turned. I saw you. What? At a corporate gala. 6 months before the arrangement was finalized. You were there representing your father's interests, some minor negotiation I don't even remember now. But I remember you. Standing in a room full of sharks, holding your own. Not aggressive, not defensive. Just, certain. Certain of who you were. Nia's throat tightened. I don't remember seeing you. You weren't supposed to. I was observing. I did that a lot then, watched people before engaging. Professional habit. But you were different. How? He crossed the room. Stopped in front of her. Close enough that she could smell him, sandalwood and something darker, something uniquely him. You looked at a room full of powerful men like they were inconveniences to manage rather than threats to fear. You moved through them like water through stone. Patient. Inevitable. And I thought. What? His hand rose. Touched her face. Gentle, like before. Devastating, like always. I thought, that woman could be my equal. That woman could be my match. Tears burned behind her eyes. You never told me. I never told anyone. When your father proposed the arrangement, I agreed immediately. Not for the business advantages. Not for the merger. For the chance to know you. And then you did know me. And I left. And you left, he agreed. And I spent 3 years wondering if I'd imagined the connection. If I'd built something in my head that never existed outside it. It existed. The words escaped before she could stop them. It existed, June. It was real. Everything we had was real. His forehead touched hers. Their breath mingled. The space between them collapsed into molecules. Then why did you leave? I told you. Not the threats. Not the manipulation. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you trust me to protect you? Because I was protecting you. She pulled back. Met his eyes. They made it clear, if I reached out, if I tried to bring you in, they'd eliminate you. Not the company. You. And I couldn't, her voice cracked. I couldn't survive a world where you didn't exist. Even if I never saw you again. Even if you hated me. At least you'd be alive. His hand slid into her hair. Cradled the back of her head. Held her like she was precious. Like she was everything. I never hated you. I know. I tried to. I couldn't. I know. Nia. Her name in his mouth was a prayer. June. His name in hers was a surrender. And when he kissed her, finally, after 3 years of silence, it wasn't gentle. It was devastation. His mouth claimed hers with 3 years of hunger, 3 years of silence, 3 years of watching her from a distance he couldn't close. She tasted his desperation. His relief. His fury at the time they'd lost. She gave it back. Everything she'd suppressed. Everything she'd buried. Every night she'd lain awake in strange beds in strange cities, remembering the weight of his arm across her waist, the sound of his heartbeat beneath her ear. This was what she'd been missing. This was what she'd sacrificed. They moved without speaking. His jacket fell. Her coat followed. The bedroom door opened. Closed. And what happened next was, for them alone. Dawn painted the hotel suite gold. Nia woke slowly, awareness returning in fragments. The weight of his arm across her waist. The rhythm of his breath against her hair. The profound rightness of being exactly where she was. She didn't move. She didn't want to break the spell. You're awake. His voice rumbled through her. How do you know? Your breathing changed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything. We should talk about what happens now. Now we destroy the people who separated us. He said it simply, like discussing breakfast plans. Then we rebuild. Rebuild what? He shifted. Propped himself up. Looked down at her with those dark eyes that had always seen too much. Everything. That's not a plan. It's a goal. Plans come later. His thumb traced her collarbone. But the goal stays fixed. You and me. Together. Whatever it takes. And if I'm not ready for that. He paused. Pulled back. Gave her space. Then I wait. You waited 3 years. I'll wait 30 more if I have to. No drama. No pressure. Just certainty. You're the only thing I've wanted that I couldn't acquire. You're the only person I've loved who made me feel like love wasn't weakness. I spent my whole life believing emotion was liability, and then you walked into a gala and made me understand why people write poetry. She laughed, soft, disbelieving. You don't read poetry. I do now. 3 years of research. I was trying to understand what you did to me. And did you? His hand cupped her face. No. But I've accepted that some things don't require understanding. They just require faith. Her heart fractured and reformed in the space of a breath. This man. This impossible, infuriating, devastating man. She didn't deserve him. He didn't deserve her. And somehow, that made them perfect. Okay. Okay what? Okay, we destroy them. Okay, we rebuild. Okay. She took a breath. Okay, together. His smile was small, rare, precious. Together. They spent the next 2 weeks piecing together Mensa's intelligence. Documents. Financial trails. Recorded conversations. The scope of Eclipse Capital's influence was staggering. Governments, corporations, criminal enterprises. All connected. All controlled. And at the center of it all, a name. Victor Osei. Nia stared at the photograph on the screen. An elderly man, distinguished, kind-faced. The kind of man you'd trust with your children. The kind of man who'd orchestrated the destruction of her family. I know that name, she said slowly. He attended my parents' wedding. He was at my graduation. Her voice caught. He's my godfather. June's expression hardened. He's also the chairman of Eclipse Capital's shadow board. Has been for 40 years. That's impossible. His family. He taught me to ride a bike. He positioned your father for debt. engineered the marriage arrangement that brought you to me, and orchestrated your disappearance when you became more valuable as an independent asset. The room spun. Everything she'd believed. Everyone she'd trusted. Lies. All of it. I need a minute. She fled to the balcony. 50 stories up. Wind cutting through her blouse. She gripped the railing until her knuckles whitened. June followed. Didn't touch her. Just stood beside her. Present. I trusted him. Her voice was barely a whisper. When I was scared, when I didn't know who to turn to, he was the one I called. Not my parents. Not you. Him. I know. He used me. For years. My entire life. I was never free. I was never making my own choices. Everything I built, everything I accomplished, all of it was his design. That's not true. She turned. What? The design was his. The execution was yours. June's voice was steady. He put you in positions. He created opportunities. But you chose what to do with them. The companies you acquired, the strategies you developed, the leader you became, that was you. That will always be you. It doesn't feel that way. I know. But feelings lie. Evidence doesn't. And the evidence shows a woman who took a manipulated situation and turned it into something extraordinary. He reached for her hand. Held it. We're going to destroy him. We're going to expose everything Eclipse Capital has done. And then you're going to look back on this moment and realize that nothing they did diminished you. They thought they were creating a weapon. They created a warrior. There's a difference. She let his words sink in. Let them reshape the narrative in her head. A warrior, not a weapon. Choices, not assignments. Hers. All of it, hers. Okay. Okay. Let's destroy them. The strategy was elegant in its simplicity. Eclipse Capital's power came from secrecy. Their influence depended on anonymity. The moment they were exposed, truly exposed, with documentation and evidence and undeniable proof, their network would collapse. But exposure required access. And access required bait. They want Okonkwo Holdings to absorb the Juno Koye consortium, Nia explained, spreading documents across the war room table. That's the endgame they've been pushing toward. A single consolidated empire under my control, which means under their control. So we give them what they want, June said. Partially. We announce the merger. We make it public. We let them believe they've won. And then. She smiled. Cold. Calculating. His smile. And then we turn the merger announcement into an exposure event. Live broadcast. Global coverage. Every document, every connection, every crime, laid out for the world to see. They'll try to stop us. Of course they will. That's why we need to control the timing. And why we need. She hesitated. We need to make them believe everything is going according to plan until the last possible moment. Which means I need to meet with Victor. Alone. The silence that followed was deafening. No. June. Absolutely not. He's my godfather. He trusts me. If I approach him, request a private meeting, he won't suspect anything. He's a man who has manipulated you since birth. He's capable of anything. Which is why I need to face him. Not as his pawn. As his equal. They stared at each other. Two wills colliding. I won't let you risk yourself. You don't get to let me do anything. That's not how this works. I spent 3 years following someone else's plans because I thought it was protection. I'm done being protected. I'm done being managed. If we're doing this together, it has to be as partners. Not as guardian and ward. His jaw worked. The internal battle was visible, his need to protect warring with his respect for her autonomy. Then I go with you. He won't meet with both of us. It'll spook him. Then I wait nearby. Close enough to intervene. June. Nia. His voice dropped. I spent 3 years unable to reach you. Unable to protect you. I am not going through that again. If you need to do this, I need to be close. That's not control. That's survival. 1:45 remaining. The broadcast happens regardless. Oh, let it happen. Expose what you found. It won't touch the real structure. You'll take down a limb while the body watches. A pause. But I'm not calling about that. Then why? I'm calling because I have someone you care about. Someone who made the mistake of investigating a little too deeply into the information Mensa provided. Nia's heart stopped. Who? Ask your husband. He knows. The call ended. Nia turned to June. His face was pale. His phone was in his hand. June. Who is it? Who do they have? He looked at her with something she'd never seen in his eyes before. Terror. My sister. They have my sister. 0:58 remaining. The countdown continued. The broadcast was seconds away. And everything they'd planned, everything they'd sacrificed, suddenly didn't matter at all. 0:47 remaining. The countdown pulsed on the screen like a heartbeat, mechanical, indifferent, relentless. Nia stared at June's face. She'd seen him cold. She'd seen him calculating. She'd seen him burn with quiet fury that could level buildings. She'd never seen him afraid. Your sister, she breathed. You never told me you had a sister. Half-sister. Different mother. She was kept separate, protected. Hidden from anyone who might use her against me. His voice cracked on the last word. I failed. 0:31 remaining. We can stop the broadcast. Buy time. No. The word tore from him. If we stop now, they win. Everything we've built collapses. Victor's exposure becomes meaningless. They'll bury the evidence, eliminate the witnesses, and we'll never get another chance. Then what do we do? His hand found hers. Gripped tight. You continue. I go. June. The broadcast requires you. Your face. Your testimony. Your credibility as CEO. I'm not essential to the exposure, but I'm essential to Minute G. She's 19 years old, Nia. 19. And she's in this position because of choices I made. 0:12 remaining. I'm not letting you face them alone. You're not letting me do anything. You're trusting me to handle what I need to handle while you handle what you need to handle. He cupped her face. Partners. Remember? This is what partnership looks like. 0:05. 0:04. 0:03. Come back to me. Always. 0:01. He kissed her forehead. Turned. Disappeared through the door. Midnight. The broadcast began. Screens across the world flickered to life. News networks. Streaming platforms. Social media channels. Every outlet that had agreed to carry the signal simultaneously. A coordinated strike against the shadows. Nia stepped in front of the camera. My name is Nia Adeyemi. I am the CEO of Okonkwo Holdings. And I'm here to tell you about an organization that has controlled the global economy for over 200 years. Her voice didn't shake. Her hands didn't tremble. Everything inside her was screaming for June, for his safety, for his sister, for the mission he'd undertaken alone, but she'd made a promise. Handle what you need to handle. This was what she needed to handle. Eclipse Capital operates in the shadows. They manipulate governments, corporations, and individuals. They engineer financial crises and profit from the chaos. They have destroyed countless lives, including members of my own family. Documents appeared on screen. Financial records. Communication logs. Photographs of meetings that were never supposed to be documented. What you're seeing is evidence compiled over decades. Evidence that proves systematic corruption at the highest levels of global finance. Evidence that implicates individuals you trust, politicians, executives, philanthropists who have built reputations on the suffering they've caused. The control room buzzed with activity. Analysts monitored global reactions. Security teams tracked potential threats. The machinery of exposure hummed around her. But Nia's mind was elsewhere. Where is he? Is he safe? Is she safe? I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to verify. Every document we're releasing tonight is authenticated. Every claim is sourced. The truth has been hidden for too long. Tonight, it becomes undeniable. She paused. Looked directly into the camera. To the people of Eclipse Capital, I know you're watching. I know you believe you're untouchable. But empires fall. Secrets surface. And the people you've controlled for generations are waking up. The broadcast continued. Testimony from Kwame Mensah. Statements from financial analysts. Expert verification of document authenticity. But Nia's part was done. She stepped away from the camera. And finally let herself fall apart. June moved through Seoul's underbelly like a ghost. The syndicate connections he'd spent years cultivating, the ones Nia knew about but never discussed, the ones that had made her uncomfortable during their marriage, now proved their worth. Safe houses. Informants. People who owed him debts that couldn't be repaid with money. The signal originated from Incheon. His contact, a scarred man named Dae-jung, traced coordinates on a tactical map. Industrial district. Warehouse registered to a shell company. Eclipse Capital subsidiary. 3 layers removed, but yes. The connection exists. June studied the map. The warehouse was isolated. Defensible. The kind of place you brought someone when you didn't want witnesses. How many inside? Thermal imaging shows 8 signatures. 1 stationary, likely your sister. 7 mobile, guards, probably. Weapons. Unknown. But these people have resources. Assume the worst. June nodded. 7 guards. 1 hostage. No margin for error. I need a team. I can give you 4. Good men. Loyal. 4 against 7. 4 plus you against 7. Dae-jung's smile was grim. I've seen what you can do when someone you love is threatened. I'm betting on you. The warehouse district was silent at 3 a.m. Fog rolled off the harbor, wrapping the industrial buildings in gray shrouds. The target warehouse loomed ahead, dark, seemingly abandoned. But heat signatures didn't lie. June's team moved in formation. 2 through the east entrance. 2 through loading dock. June himself took the roof access. Highest risk, highest reward. Minute G. He hadn't seen her in 4 years. The separation had been his idea. Keep her away from his world. Keep her safe from the enemies his choices had created. Some protection. The roof hatch opened silently. June dropped into darkness. Catwalk stretched across the warehouse ceiling, maintenance access, perfect for observation. Below, he could see the layout. Minute G sat in the center of the space. Chair. Restraints. Hood over her head. Alive. The relief almost buckled his knees. 7 guards, as reported. Professional posture. Military training, most likely. They moved in patterns, predictable, but disciplined. 1 stood directly beside Minute G. The handler. Take him first. The others will scatter. June signaled his team through the comm unit. East team, ready. Dock team, ready. Countdown from 10. 10. 9. 8. He positioned himself above the handler. 7. 6. 5. Checked his weapon. Controlled his breathing. 4. 3. 2. Thought of Nia. Her face. Her voice. Come back to me. 1. Chaos erupted. The first guard fell before he understood what was happening. June descended from the catwalk like Wrath incarnate, silent, precise, devastating. His blade found the handler's throat before the man could reach for Minute G. 1 down. 6 remaining. His team breached simultaneously. Gunfire shattered the warehouse silence. Muzzle flashes strobed through the darkness. Bodies hit concrete. Minute G screamed beneath her hood. It's me. June reached her, hands working at the restraints. It's your brother. I'm getting you out. June, there are more, they said more were coming. I know. Stay low. The restraints fell away. He pulled off her hood. Her face, young, terrified, so much like their father's, stared up at him. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was investigating. I found records, I didn't know they were watching. Later. Apologies later. Moving now. He pulled her behind a concrete pillar as bullets sparked against the floor. 3 guards down. 3 remaining. Plus whatever reinforcements Minute G had mentioned. Can you run? I think, yes. Yes. East exit. My team will cover us. Don't stop for anything. They moved. June kept his body between Minute G and the gunfire. His team laid down suppressive fire, disciplined, effective. The remaining guards fell back. The east door was 20 meters away. 15. 10. A bullet caught June's shoulder. He stumbled. Kept moving. The pain was distant, adrenaline and focus pushing it aside. 5 meters. They burst through the exit. A van waited, engine running, doors open. Daejung behind the wheel. Move, move, move. They piled inside. The van accelerated before the doors closed. Behind them, the warehouse erupted in flame, his team's parting gift, eliminating evidence. Minute G was crying. June was bleeding. But they were alive. Come back to me. He would. The safe house was in Gangnam, an apartment June maintained for emergencies. Clean. Secure. Unknown to Eclipse Capital. Minute G slept in the bedroom, sedated by the medic who'd stitched June's shoulder. The wound was clean, through and through, missing anything vital. He'd been lucky. He didn't feel lucky. He felt exhausted. His phone buzzed. Nia. You're alive. Her voice broke on the word. I'm alive. Minute G is safe. We're at secondary location. I'm coming. The broadcast. Finished 2 hours ago. Global coverage. Markets are already reacting. Eclipse Capital's public-facing assets are hemorrhaging value. It's working. Relief flooded through him. Not for the mission. For her. She was safe. She'd succeeded. Everything they'd sacrificed was paying off. I need to see you. I know. I'm already en route. She arrived 40 minutes later. The door opened and she was there, exhausted, beautiful, and June didn't have words for what he felt. He just reached for her. She came. They stood in the apartment's dim living room, holding each other. No words necessary. No words sufficient. Your shoulder. She pulled back. Touched the bandage gently. You were shot. I've had worse. That's not comforting. I know. He pressed his forehead to hers. But I'm here. We're here. It's over. Is it? Her voice was small. The voice on the phone, they said Victor was expendable. They said we only exposed a limb, not the body. They were trying to destabilize you. Make you doubt the plan. What if they were right? He pulled back. Looked into her eyes. Then we keep fighting. We exposed what we found. The world knows now. Whatever remains of Eclipse Capital, they are damaged. Weakened. They can't operate in shadows anymore. They'll rebuild. Maybe. But so will we. And next time, we'll have allies. The broadcast created a movement, Nia. Millions of people now understand what they are fighting against. That's not nothing. She nodded. Slowly. Let his certainty anchor her. I need to meet her. Your sister. Tomorrow. She's sleeping now. Tomorrow. Nia took his hand. Let's go home. But they didn't have a home anymore. Not really. His penthouse was compromised. Her hotel was too exposed. They were survivors without shelter, partners without foundation. We'll build one, June said, reading her thoughts. A real one. Together. You're making a lot of promises tonight. I'm making commitments. There's a difference. She smiled, small, tired, real. Okay. Commitments. I can work with commitments. Minute G woke slowly. Sunlight streamed through unfamiliar windows. An unfamiliar room. Unfamiliar sheets. But the chair beside her bed held a familiar figure. June. Her brother looked like he hadn't slept. Dark circles under his eyes. Bandage visible beneath his shirt. The same intense expression she remembered from childhood. Watching, protecting, calculating. How do you feel? Like I was kidnapped by a shadow organization and rescued by mercenaries. She sat up slowly. So, normal Tuesday. Despite everything, he almost smiled. Almost. I need to apologize. No. June. No apologies. You were investigating because you sensed something wrong. You were brave. You were right. The people who took you, they're the ones who owe apologies. Not you. She studied his face. The brother she remembered had been cold, distant, always present in her life, but from a remove. Sending money. Checking in through intermediaries. Never quite there. This man was different. Something changed, she said. You're warmer. Someone changed me. The woman? The one on the broadcast. He nodded. Nia. She's important. I gathered that when you burst into a warehouse and killed 6 people to rescue me while she exposed a global conspiracy. 7 people. And I had help. Minute G laughed, weak, but genuine. I want to meet her. Properly. Not as a rescued hostage. She wants to meet you too. She's making breakfast. The CEO of a multinational corporation is making breakfast in your safe house. She insisted. His expression softened in a way Minute G had never seen. She insists on a lot of things. The apartment smelled like coffee and something spiced. Minute G padded into the kitchen, wrapped in a borrowed robe, to find a woman standing at the stove. Natural hair pulled back. Simple clothes. Elegant despite the casualness. Nia turned. Smiled. You must be Minute G. I've heard wonderful things. You've heard things. Minute G glanced at her brother. From him? Mr. I communicate through significant silences. He has his moments. Nia slid a plate across the counter. Nigerian-style eggs. My mother's recipe. I hope you're hungry. Minute G was starving. She ate while June and Nia moved around each other in the small kitchen. Comfortable, synchronized, intimate. The kind of partnership that couldn't be faked. Thank you, Minute G said between bites. For what you did. The broadcast, the exposure, all of it. Your brother did the hard part. My brother killed some guards and got himself shot. You dismantled a centuries-old conspiracy on live television. I think that qualifies as harder. Nia laughed. The sound was warm, genuine, nothing like the controlled CEO Minute G had seen on screen. This was a different woman. A complete woman. I like her, Minute G announced to June. Keep her. I intend to. Good. Minute G returned to her eggs. Now someone explain what the hell Eclipse Capital actually is, because I clearly only scratched the surface. The weeks following the broadcast were chaos-controlled. Government investigations launched across 12 countries. Financial regulators froze Eclipse Capital assets worth billions. Arrests began, mid-level operatives, mostly, but the pressure climbed upward daily. Victor Osei's trial became the spectacle of the decade. Nia testified. The defendant positioned himself as a trusted family figure while systematically manipulating every major decision in my life for over 20 years. The courtroom was silent. Victor sat at the defense table, surrounded by expensive lawyers, his distinguished facade crumbling. He looked old now. Diminished. The kind-faced godfather replaced by something hollow. He engineered my father's financial ruin. He orchestrated my marriage to create specific corporate alignments. When I became more valuable as an independent asset, he threatened my family's lives to ensure my compliance. Objection. The lead defense attorney rose. The witness is providing speculation about client motivations. Sustained, the judge said. Ms. Adeyemi, please confine yourself to direct knowledge. Direct knowledge. Nia's voice hardened. I have recorded conversations where the defendant admits to membership in Eclipse Capital's leadership. I have financial records showing transfers from his personal accounts to organizations responsible for multiple disappearances. I have documented threats against my father's life, issued by systems he controlled. She looked at Victor. He looked back. For a moment, she saw the godfather who'd taught her to ride a bike. The man who'd held her hand at her mother's funeral. The monster who'd shaped her entire existence to serve his purposes. I trusted you, she said quietly. I loved you. And you used every piece of that against me. Victor's expression flickered. Something almost like regret crossed his features. Then it vanished, replaced by the cold calculation she now recognized as his true face. Everything I did, he said, speaking for the first time, I did for the greater good. You can't understand the scope of what we protected. The wars we prevented. The stability we maintained. History will vindicate. History will forget you, Nia interrupted. That's what happens to people who operate in shadows. They don't get to be remembered. They just get to be exposed. She stepped down from the witness stand. June waited in the gallery. She walked to him. Sat beside him. Let his hand close over hers. It's over. Not the fight, there would always be more fights. But this chapter. This wound. This reckoning. It's finally over. 3 months after the broadcast, the merger went through. Not the hostile takeover Eclipse Capital had envisioned, a true partnership. Afro-Korean Holdings and the Juno Koye consortium joined forces, creating a corporate entity powerful enough to reshape markets. But the power wasn't the point. The structure was. We build something different, Nia explained to the joint board. Every system that Eclipse Capital used to manipulate us, we dismantle it. Every shadow network that allowed them to operate, we illuminate it. This company becomes a beacon, not a weapon. The board members shifted uncomfortably. They were used to profit margins and market share. Ethics was unfamiliar territory. The restructuring will be expensive, someone ventured. The alternative is repetition, June responded. We learned from Eclipse Capital's playbook for generations without realizing it. The only way to break the cycle is deliberate change. And if shareholders object, shareholders will adapt or divest. Nia's voice carried the authority of someone who'd faced worse opponents than nervous executives. We're not asking permission. We're providing direction. The meeting adjourned. The decisions held. The transformation began. Kwame Mensah requested a private meeting. Nia agreed, but this time, June's presence was expected. The three of them gathered in a private club, neutral territory, surrounded by the kind of discreet luxury that old money preferred. The information I provided proved accurate, Mensah began. Eclipse Capital's public structure collapsed exactly as I predicted. Your information was also incomplete, Nia countered. Victor was a figurehead. The true leadership remains unidentified. A limitation I acknowledged from the beginning. I never claimed omniscience, merely utility. June's eyes narrowed. What do you want, Mensah? The older man smiled, smooth, controlled, dangerous in its charm. What I've always wanted. A seat at the table. The Afro-Korean consortium is reshaping the landscape. I'd rather be inside that transformation than outside it. You were a rival for years. I was a competitor. Competition doesn't preclude alliance, it simply establishes baseline respect. Nia and June exchanged glances. Silent communication. Married communication, despite the paperwork that said otherwise. Meridian Technologies remains independent, Nia said finally. We won't absorb your company. I wouldn't expect you to. But we're open to collaborative ventures. Joint projects. Shared intelligence about Eclipse Capital remnants. Mensah's smile widened. That's all I ask. There's one more thing. June's voice dropped. The women. The ones who disappeared after rejecting your advances. I want to know what happened to them. The room went cold. Mensah's charm flickered. That's a complicated matter. Simplify it. Silence stretched. Finally, Mensah spoke. They are alive. All of them. Relocated with new identities. Compensated generously. Relocated by whom? By me. He met June's stare directly. The rumors were deliberate. A reputation I cultivated to keep certain people afraid of me. But I've never harmed anyone who didn't harm me first. The women who disappeared were witnesses to Eclipse Capital operations. I extracted them before the organization could silence them permanently. You could have told us this earlier. I could have. But trust is earned through verification, not claims. I assume you'll investigate. Thoroughly. Good. Investigate. You'll find I'm telling the truth. Mensah stood. Gathered his coat. I look forward to our collaboration. It should be educational. He left. Nia and June remained. Do you believe him? I believe he's more complicated than he appears. June's jaw tightened. Which makes him either useful or dangerous. Probably both. Probably. She took his hand. We'll verify. We will. And if he's lying? June's expression hardened. The tattoo on his neck seemed to pulse with quiet menace. Then we'll handle it. Seminit appeared at the consortium headquarters 6 months after the merger. She looked different, thinner, sharper, something desperate in her eyes. The confident mistress who draped herself across June's arm at client meetings had been replaced by someone diminished. I need to speak with him. The receptionist hesitated. Mr. Juno Koye is in a meeting. Tell him it's urgent. Tell him. Her voice cracked. Tell him I have information about the people who are still hunting him. The meeting was interrupted. June emerged, expression guarded. Nia followed. Seminit's face contorted at the sight of them together. Jealousy and resignation and something like despair. You came back to her. I never left her. June's voice was flat. What do you want, Seminit? They approached me. After you, after everything. They said they could help me destroy you. Give me access to resources, connections. I just had to provide information. Eclipse Capital remnants. I don't know what they called themselves. But they knew things. Things about your security protocols, your travel patterns. They knew you'd rescued your sister. They knew about the safe house in Gangnam. Nia stepped forward. What did you tell them? Seminit's eyes dropped. Everything they asked. At first. I was angry. Humiliated. I wanted to hurt him the way he'd hurt me. And now. Tears slid down her cheeks. Now I know what they're really planning. And I can't be part of it. I thought I wanted revenge, but not like this. Not what? June's voice sharpened. What are they planning? A demonstration. That's what they called it. Something big enough to prove the broadcast didn't stop anything. That the exposure was meaningless. That they are still powerful. What kind of demonstration? Seminit looked up. Met June's eyes. They're going to kill her. Nia. Publicly. At the charity gala next week. They have people inside already. Security, catering, guests. A coordinated strike that no one will see coming. The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Why tell us? Nia's voice was steady, but her hands had clenched. Why warn us? Because I was supposed to be the distraction. Seminit's voice broke. I was supposed to approach June, draw his attention while they positioned. And when I realized what that meant, what I'd become, I couldn't. I couldn't be the reason you died. She turned to June. I hated you. For 18 months, I hated you for never looking at me the way you looked at her. But you never pretended to love me. You never lied about what we were. And that's more honesty than most people get. Her hands were shaking. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm giving you information because it's the right thing to do. Use it. Don't use it. But I'm done being someone else's weapon. She turned and walked away. June and Nia watched her disappear into the elevator. She could be lying, Nia said quietly. This could be the distraction itself. It could. But you don't think so. I think she looked like someone who finally saw themselves clearly. That's not something you can fake. Nia nodded. So. The gala. We cancel it. No. Her voice hardened. We attend. But on our terms. With our preparations. If they want a demonstration, we'll give them one. The charity gala was the social event of the season. 500 guests. Black tie. The kind of gathering where billions changed hands through whispered conversations. And somewhere in the crowd, assassins waited. June's security was tripled. But the changes were subtle, hidden in plain sight. New faces among the catering staff. Strategic positioning of exits. Communication frequencies that couldn't be intercepted. Nia descended the staircase in a gown of midnight blue, Nigerian indigo silk with Korean embroidery. Her mother's pearls at her throat. Her head held high. She looked like a queen entering battle. Because she was. June waited at the bottom of the stairs. Black suit. Immaculate. The tattoo on his neck visible above his collar, a deliberate choice, a message to anyone watching. I am not hiding who I am. Ready. Always. They moved through the crowd together. Smiling. Shaking hands. playing the roles expected of them. But their eyes never stopped scanning. The first assassin was identified within 30 minutes. Catering staff. Wrong body language. Hand that kept drifting toward a concealed pocket. June's team intercepted him silently. No scene. No alarm. The second was a guest. Fake credentials. Perfect cover. But a face that appeared in no database, no social registry, no corporate records. Intercepted. The third was security itself. One of the venue's own guards, compromised through blackmail. A family held hostage somewhere outside the city. June made a call. The family was extracted. The guard stood down. By the time the keynote speech began, 5 threats had been neutralized. But June's instinct screamed that there were more. The ballroom lights dimmed for Nia's address. 500 faces turned toward the stage. Phones rose to record. Media captured every moment. Nia stepped to the podium. Thank you all for joining us tonight. The Adeyemi Okoye Foundation exists to support those who've been forgotten by systems designed to exploit them. Tonight, we're announcing grants totaling. She saw him. Back of the room. Face she didn't recognize, but something in his posture. Wrong. She kept speaking. Her voice never wavered. But her hand moved to the hidden signal device in her bracelet. 1 press. 2 presses. 3. Threat identified. Stage right. Ballroom exit B. June was already moving. The man realized he'd been spotted too late. He reached for his weapon, a compact device disguised as a phone. June caught his wrist. Twisted. The device clattered to the floor. Security converged. The man was subdued before anyone in the audience understood what was happening. Nia finished her speech. Announced the grants. Accepted applause. Left the stage like nothing had occurred. In the back room, June had the would-be assassin pinned to the wall. Who sent you? No answer. I can make this conversation very unpleasant. Or you can make it simple. Who sent you? The man laughed. Blood on his teeth, he'd bitten his tongue. You think this ends anything? There are 100 more like me. 1,000. You can't protect her forever. I don't need to protect her forever. I just need to protect her long enough to destroy you. The man's eyes flickered. Something like fear beneath the defiance. Who sent you? Silence. Then. The council. What's left of it? Eclipse Capital wasn't an organization, it was a network. A philosophy. You cut off Victor and exposed the public structures, but the real power was never visible. And they are very, very angry. Where? I don't know. No one knows. That's the point. Decentralized. Cell-structured. You eliminate one, 10 more appear. June's hand tightened on the man's throat. Then we'll eliminate 10. Then 100. However many it takes. You'll never. I've been underestimated my entire life. June's voice dropped to a whisper. Usually by people who ended up regretting it. Tell whoever survives this. Nia Adeyemi is under my protection. The consequences for threatening her will be disproportionate, eternal, and absolutely without mercy. He released the man. Security took him away. Nia appeared in the doorway. What did you learn? Decentralized network. Cell structure. No clear leadership. Harder to eliminate. But not impossible. He turned to face her. They wanted a demonstration. They got one. 6 operatives captured in a single evening. Their plans exposed. Their methods documented. They'll try again. They will. He took her hands. And we'll stop them again. And again. Until the cost of attacking us outweighs any possible benefit. She nodded. I don't want to live in fear. You won't. Fear is what they count on. We offer them something different, certainty. The certainty that we're more prepared, more connected, more determined than they ever imagined. And if it's not enough. He kissed her forehead. It's enough. Because it has to be. Because I refuse to accept any alternative. Time passed. Not peacefully. There were still attacks, still threats, still the exhausting work of dismantling shadows. But there were also moments of stillness. Minute G enrolled in graduate school. Business ethics. She wanted to understand the systems that had shaped her family. June supported her from a distance, close enough for safety, far enough for independence. Seminit disappeared. New identity. Relocated through channels June's network provided. A chance at a life uncomplicated by the mistakes she'd made. He didn't track her. Some redemptions required anonymity. The consortium thrived. Ethical restructuring turned out to be profitable. Consumers and investors alike responded to transparency. The market share they'd feared losing multiplied. And Nia and June. They found each other again. Not the desperate passion of their reunion, though that remained. Something deeper. Quieter. The kind of connection that survived because it was tested. They had dinner together most nights. Sometimes at restaurants. Sometimes in the penthouse they'd chosen together. New building, new start. She cooked Nigerian stews. He made Korean banchan. They argued about spice levels and discovered compromises. They worked together. Not just as co-COs, as partners. Strategizing over breakfast. Debriefing over wine. Learning each other's blind spots and covering them. They grieved together. Nia's father passed 7 months after Victor's conviction. The heart condition that had been weaponized against her finally claimed him. But he died knowing his daughter was free. Knowing she was loved. June held her through the worst nights. Said nothing. Said everything. And slowly, the world shifted. Eclipse Capital's remnants fractured. The decentralized cells turned on each other. Competition for limited resources, diminishing influence. What had been a unified threat became manageable chaos. Not defeated, but contained. 1 year after the broadcast, June took Nia to Nigeria. Her father's village. The house where her mother had been born. Red earth and green palms and the kind of humidity that made Seoul's summers feel like spring. Why are we here? I wanted to see where you began. They walked through the village. Children followed them, curious about the tall Korean-Nigerian man with the serious face. Elders remembered Nia's mother, shared stories she'd never heard. My grandmother used to say home isn't a place, Nia said as they sat on the porch of her mother's childhood home. It's wherever you feel most yourself. And where is that for you? She turned to face him. The sunset painted his features in gold and amber. The tattoo on his neck caught the light, symbols of heritage, of choice, of commitment. Wherever you are. He didn't smile. But something in his eyes shifted, that rare warmth she'd learned to recognize. Good answer. It's the truth. He reached into his pocket. Pulled out a small box. I had this made in Seoul. The design incorporates both our lineages, Korean goldwork, Nigerian patterns. I wanted it to represent what we're building. He opened the box. Inside, a ring. Delicate but substantial. Exactly what she would have chosen for herself. The first time we did this, it was an arrangement. A merger. Something orchestrated by people who wanted to use us. He took her hand. This time, I'm asking for myself. No contracts. No corporate strategies. No manipulation. Just us. June. Marry me. Not again, that implies repetition. Marry me for the first time. Let everything that came before be prologue. Let this be the real beginning. She looked at the ring. Looked at him. Looked at the house where her mother had dreamed of futures her daughter would live. Yes. The word was simple. The meaning was infinite. Yes, she said again. But I have conditions. His eyebrow rose. Conditions. The wedding happens in Lagos. My mother's family deserves to be there. Agreed. Minute G is my maid of honor. She'll be thrilled. And we honeymoon somewhere neither of us has ever been. Somewhere without corporate interests or family history. Somewhere we can just be, us. Patagonia, he said immediately. I've been reading about it. Mountains. Glacier. Extremely limited cell service. She laughed. The sound carried across the village evening, mixing with children's voices and distant music. Patagonia. Deal. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Lagos embraced them. The wedding drew 300 guests, family, business associates, allies who'd emerged during the Eclipse Capital fight. Kwame Mensah attended, his information about the disappeared women verified and his tentative alliance solidified. Minute G wore coral silk and cried through the entire ceremony. The venue was Nia's grandmother's compound. Expanded for the occasion, decorated with flowers from both Nigeria and Korea. The kind of fusion that looked impossible until it was achieved. June wore traditional Korean hanbok modified with Nigerian embroidery. The tattoo on his neck was visible. Deliberate. A statement. This is who I am. All of me. Accept it or leave. Nia wore her mother's wedding dress. Altered to fit. Updated with modern touches. But the essence remained, white lace, family pearls, a train that swept the red earth like a blessing. The officiant spoke in Yoruba and Korean. Guests who understood neither felt the meaning anyway. Do you take this woman? I do. Do you take this man? I do. Simple words. Profound transformation. They kissed. The crowd erupted. And somewhere, in the spaces between worlds, Nia's mother and June's father and everyone they'd lost, seemed to approve. The attack came during the reception. 3 gunmen. Professional. Remnants of the remnants, refusing to accept defeat. They breached the perimeter during the first dance. June sensed them before he saw them. The shift in energy. The wrongness. Down, he said quietly, pushing Nia behind him. The first gunman raised his weapon. June's people responded. The exchange was brief, seconds that felt like hours. Bodies hit the ground. Guests screamed. Chaos erupted. When the silence returned, 3 attackers were dead. 2 of June's security team were wounded. And Nia stood behind her husband, wedding dress stained with someone else's blood, absolutely unharmed. This ends, she said. Her voice was ice. This ends tonight. They spent their wedding night dismantling the cell that had ordered the attack. Financial structures. Communication networks. Every thread traced and severed. By dawn, the cell no longer existed. Romantic, June said as they watched the sun rise over Lagos, both still in their wedding clothes. We'll have other nights. Nia leaned against him. Right now, I want them to understand. Understand what? She turned to face him. Her eyes held the fire he'd fallen in love with, controlled, precise, devastating. That attacking us on our wedding day was the worst decision they ever made. That we will find them. All of them. Every cell, every operative, every shadow. And we will end this. That could take years. Then it takes years. But it ends. I refuse to spend my life looking over my shoulder. He took her hand. Brought it to his lips. Kissed the ring he'd given her. Then we end it. Together. Ye too. They dismantled cells across 4 continents. The consortium's resources, combined with Mensa's intelligence and government allies they'd cultivated, proved overwhelming. Eclipse Capital's remnants fractured further, turned on each other, destroyed themselves from within. Year 3. Nia launched the Adeyemi Foundation's education initiative. Schools in 6 African countries. Scholarships for first-generation corporate leaders. Building systems that would prevent future victors from finding vulnerable families to exploit. June provided security infrastructure for all of it. Year 4. Minute G graduated with honors. Joined the consortium's ethics division. Became the conscience June hadn't known he needed. She dated a software engineer from Busan. June pretended not to run background checks. Nia caught him anyway. Year 5. The last organized Eclipse Capital cell was identified and neutralized. A ceremonial moment, champagne in the consortium boardroom, toasts from colleagues who'd become family. But they both knew, organized was the key word. Shadows didn't die easily. Vigilance remained. Year 6. Nia announced she was pregnant. June's reaction was unprecedented. He sat down. Heavily. Stared at her like she'd announced an alien invasion. Pregnant? Yes. With a child. That's typically how it works. He blinked. Processed. Blinked again. I don't know how to be a father. Neither did my dad. He figured it out. Your father was warm. Kind. You're you. She knelt beside him. Took his hands. And you is exactly what our child needs. Structure. Protection. Unwavering commitment. You've been practicing those your whole life. What about warmth? You have warmth. You just hide it under 14 layers of stoicism. She kissed his cheek. Besides, I have enough warmth for both of us. We'll balance. He stared at her. The woman who'd transformed his life. Who'd survived his family's shadows and her own. Who'd built an empire while carrying the weight of generations. Now carrying something new. Something theirs. Okay. 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 I'll learn. I'll read books. He paused. Is there a manual? She laughed. The sound was joy itself. There's no manual, June. There's just us. Figuring it out together. Together. He nodded slowly. I can do together. 7 years after the broadcast. The consortium headquarters had a nursery now. State-of-the-art. Secure. Staffed by people who'd passed more background checks than some government officials. In that nursery, a 3-year-old boy with his father's intensity and his mother's warmth played with building blocks. His name was Chukwudi Hanjuno Koye Adeyemi. They called him CJ. Nia watched him through the glass. Her hand rested on her belly, 5 months along with their second. A girl, according to the scans. She was thinking about naming her after her mother. You're supposed to be in the board meeting. June's voice. Behind her. Close. The board can wait 5 minutes. I'm watching our son build a tower. He's been building it for an hour. It keeps falling over. And he keeps rebuilding it. That's the point. June stepped beside her. Watched CJ through the glass. He has your stubbornness. He has your silence. Yesterday he went 4 hours without speaking. Just observing. That sounds healthy. It sounds like you at 30. I'm still deciding if it's concerning. They stood together. The view was Seoul's skyline, transformed over the years, but still familiar. The city that had witnessed their separation and reunion. The city that held their history. Do you ever think about what might have happened? Nia asked. If I hadn't come back? If I'd stayed hidden? Every day. And? He turned to face her. His features had softened with time, still severe, still commanding, but warmer now. CJ had done that. She had done that. And every day, I'm grateful that hypotheticals are just hypotheticals. We can torture ourselves with alternate histories, or we can live the history we've created. When did you become philosophical? Around year 3. I started reading. You mentioned poetry once. She smiled. I remember. I've written some poetry. For you. For CJ. For, he glanced at her belly. The next one. You write poetry. Badly. But the attempt matters. I want to read it. Absolutely not. June. It's terrible. Structurally unsound. Minute G called it emotionally aggressive. You showed Minute G. She found it. There was a situation. Nia laughed. The sound drew CJ's attention. He looked up, saw his parents, and his serious little face split into a grin. He waved. They waved back. I love you, Nia said. I know. That's not how you're supposed to respond. I know that too. He pulled her close. Pressed a kiss to her hair. I love you. More than words, even poorly constructed poetic ones, can express. You saved me from becoming the monster everyone expected. You gave me family when I'd forgotten what family meant. You. Okay, now you're overcompensating. I'm being honest. You're being extra. Minute G taught me that word. I'm still not sure I'm using it correctly. You're using it perfectly. He smiled. Rare. Real. Reserved for her. Let's get our son. Let's go home. Let's eat dinner together and argue about spice levels and fall asleep knowing that tomorrow is just another day. No crises. No conspiracies. Just us. That sounds boring. It sounds like everything I never knew I wanted. She took his hand. Together, they walked toward the nursery. Toward their son. Toward the life they'd built from ashes and shadows. 10 years after the broadcast. The anniversary gala was smaller than previous years. Intimate, deliberate. Just the people who mattered. Mensa, now a trusted ally, raised a toast to partnerships that outlasted expectations. Minute G, newly engaged, introduced her fiancé to a family that intimidated him but welcomed him completely. CJ, 7 years old and startlingly perceptive, gave a speech his parents hadn't approved. It was better than anything they would have written. His sister, 4-year-old Adiz, named for Nia's mother, sat on June's lap throughout the dinner, refusing all other seats. He pretended to be inconvenienced. He wasn't. When the speeches ended, Nia and June stepped onto the balcony. Seoul sparkled below them, the city of their history, their pain, their triumph. 10 years, Nia said. It feels longer. Good longer or bad longer? He considered. Full longer. Like we've lived more than the years account for. That's surprisingly romantic. I've been practicing. She leaned against him. His arm wrapped around her shoulders. Any regrets? He was quiet for a moment. One. What? I regret every day I spent not knowing you were out there. Every morning I woke up angry instead of searching. Every moment I wasted on pride when I should have been fighting for us. You couldn't have known. I should have known. I should have trusted what we had more than what I saw. I should have. He stopped. Swallowed. I should have been better. You were surviving. We both were. That's not something to regret, it's something to learn from. Have I learned? Have you tried to parade any mistresses recently? He winced. That's never not going to be embarrassing. That's the point. We grow by remembering our worst moments. Not to torture ourselves, to ensure we never repeat them. You sound like CJ. He gets it from you. He gets the silence from me. The wisdom is entirely yours. Inside, their children laughed at something Minute G said. The sound carried through the glass doors, pure, unguarded, unburdened. We built that, June said quietly. That laughter. That safety. We built it from something that tried to destroy us. We did. And now it's theirs. To carry forward. To build on. Nia nodded. That's the point of all of it. Not the companies or the power or the public victories. The point is them. What they inherit. Who they become. And who will they become? She turned in his arms. Faced him fully. Her eyes, still soft, still expressive, still carrying the fire that had started everything, met his. They'll become themselves. That's all we can ask. We give them foundation. We give them values. We give them the knowledge that love survives everything, betrayal, distance, time. And then we let them build their own stories. What if their stories are hard? Then we'll be there. Not to fix it, to support it. The way we support each other. He kissed her. Not desperate anymore. Not claiming. Just loving. You know, he murmured against her lips, at that client meeting, when you walked in as CEO. I thought I'd ruined everything. You had. And yet. She smiled. Here we are. Here we are. They stayed on the balcony until their children came looking. CJ leading Adiz by the hand. Both demanding attention. Both receiving it instantly. The family returned to the party. To the people who'd become pillars. To the life they'd earned through fire and persistence. And somewhere in the universe, if such things existed, Nia's mother and June's father and everyone they'd lost looked down and saw what had grown from their sacrifice. And they were satisfied. This story explored what happens when power becomes personal, when the systems meant to control us become the very things we dismantle to become free. Nia and June's journey was never just about romance, it was about reclamation. Taking back agency from those who assumed they had the right to determine our paths. If you've ever felt manipulated by systems larger than yourself, know this: the ending isn't written until you write it. Thank you for joining this journey. Your presence here matters. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support allows these stories to reach others who might need them.